Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description, as well as a live stream game we're part of and our gaming channel. With all that out of the way, we're going to jump into this week's video. We're talking about the Ancestral Sorcerer. Now, the Ancestral Sorcery is an Unearthed Arcana, which means it's playtest, like everything else we've been covering lately, because they have a lot out, and I felt like it was a really good time to jump into it. So, the Ancestral Sorcerer does have a little bit of flavor text I'm going to read out to you now. Your innate magic comes from a specific ancestor who wields such awesome magical power that a fragment of their personality guides you. This ancestor grants you guidance and direction as you explore your innate magical abilities. You might be the ancestor's sole surviving descendant, a reincarnation who bears an eerie resemblance to your ancestor, or a victim of a curse gained from handling your ancestor's personal effects. So it does give you a really great concept for unearthing this kind of a character and really giving them a lot to work with for role-playing purposes and the background for your character. The first ability you get at level 3 is called Ancestor's Lore. You use your force of personality to channel your ancestor's knowledge. When you make an intelligence check, you gain a bonus to the check equal to your charisma modifier. You also gain proficiency in one of these skills of your choice: Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, or Religion. That is pretty great for social and exploring circumstances, but you probably don't often run into a circumstance where you have wizards or artificers. I find that I've found myself in parties without them pretty regularly, so having one of those proficiencies really makes a big difference in exploring and figuring things out from the adventurer standpoint. You do gain some ancestral spells. These are some of them are really interesting. You get command, guidance, spiritual weapon, resistance, protection from good and evil at level 3. You get spirit guardians later on. You get Yolandi's regal presence. Like, you get a lot of very strange spells for this. Some of them are cleric spells. Some of them are bard spells. It is a really interesting kind of setup that they have for you, because there's no real clear understanding yet of what this sorcerer is, but the spell list just kind of pull you in a bunch of different directions. The final level 3 ability you get is Visage of the Ancestor. Choose the form your ancestor takes, which might resemble the ancestor in life or a symbolic creature while your innate sorcery feature is active. This form appears in a spectral haze around you, and you have advantage on any ability check you make as part of the influence action. Before we get into what that real ability does, we have to talk about innate sorcery. So innate sorcery is an ability you gain at level 1. The way it's listed is: an event in your past left an indelible mark on you, infusing you with simmering magic. As a bonus action, you can unleash that magic for 1 minute, during which you gain the following benefits. Your spell save DC of your sorcerer spells increases by 1, and you have advantage on your attack rolls of sorcerer spells you cast. You can use this feature twice, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So, what Visage of the Ancestor does, it gives you advantage on all ability checks you make while you're using innate sorcery. So, this turns it from a combat ability into an adventuring ability. And it gives you a lot of opportunity to really play with that, looking to your ancestor for guidance in what you're doing. That's really kind of the feel I'm getting from this. You're really more like an adventurer kind of a sorcerer, which is a really unique thing for sorcerers, because sorcerers are really usually blaster heavy. But this one gives you this opportunity to look for ancestors following this ancient being that's tied to you. So moving on, at level 6, you gain Superior Spell Disruption. Your ancestor's spellcasting mastery aids you in breaking spells. You always have counterspell and dispel magic prepared. While your innate sorcery feature is active, you can cast each spell without expending a spell slot. If you cast counterspell in this way, the target has disadvantage on its constitution saving throw. If you cast dispel magic in this way, you have advantage on your ability checks to end the ongoing spells. Once you cast either spell without a spell slot, you must finish a long rest before you can cast the spell in this way again. So right here, it makes me feel like the war mage wizard, because you're really built around disrupting and breaking down opponents' magic. Because innate sorcery is a very cool, very powerful feature for the sorcerer. But it does make you focus on just being a, like a glass cannon, or just focusing purely on blowing things up. Because you have advantage on the attack rolls and your spell save DC is higher. So that's a big, big thing for making these saves. But now you have this encouragement to break spells, to dispel magic that's on cursed objects. So when you're fighting a caster, it does encourage you to use these spells, because counterspell is a very powerful spell, but it's not something you normally would see picked up by a sorcerer, I guess. I feel like that's definitely more of a wizard thing, but it is incredibly powerful, and it can save your entire party. So it is one of those spells that you do want to have someone have, or at least two people have, because it's extremely beneficial. But dispel magic really, really pushes this really adventuring feel to the sorcerer. Like, the sorcerer already has a lot of things in its kit to make it offensively a powerhouse. You don't have to worry too much, because you're a full caster and you have access to some of the best damaging spells in the game, and you share a lot of that with the wizard. So where the wizard gets all this utility, as well as like the ability to learn so many spells, the sorcerer gets almost the best of the damage spells incorporated into its spell list. It does give you a lot of blasting power, so you don't have to worry about damage. You're also a charisma caster, so you can be a face of the party. Like, it does build you a lot to doing a lot of things socially and in combat, but it never gives you the opportunity to be a adventurer, a problem solver, a one who fixes or uncovers the secrets of the labyrinth that you find yourself in. But now you're starting to build your sorcerer to be that kind of a character, where you're less I don't know what great sorcerer would be in modern times, but like, you're more Indiana Jones than you are Rambo. I guess would be a kind of a good way to explain it, where you're uncovering these truths, or you're breaking these curses, or whatever it is, as opposed to just punching your way through. At 14th level, you get Ancestral's Majesty. Your ancestor's visage invokes awe or dread. While your innate sorcery feature is active, you are surrounded by a magical aura in a 5-foot emanation. Whenever a creature you can see enters the emanation or ends its turn there, you can force the creature to make a charisma saving throw. On a failed save, the target has the prone condition and the frightened condition until the end of your next turn, and you get to choose which one. And a creature makes a save only once per turn. This is really interesting, because you can choose to knock a target prone or frighten it until the end of your next turn. But it has to be within 5 feet of you. That is a very dangerous place to be when you're a sorcerer. It's a good defensive mechanic to maybe, give yourself the opportunity to get away. Or usually, if as a sorcerer at 14th level, if something gets that close to you and hits you, you're probably just going to misty step away or use some sort of teleportation to get you away from that area almost immediately. Because as a sorcerer, you're not really built to take hits, and being in melee is extremely dangerous. Monsters definitely have multi-attack at this point. Some of them will hit pretty hard, and some of them have special abilities that if they do hit you are even worse. But I mean, it's tricky to use this in a really effective way. It's a great defensive tool in the moment because you can at least get out of there and make it more difficult for them. I think, in all honesty, the prone condition might be the better one because frighten will end until the end of your next turn. But if they move up to you and it's not your turn and you teleport away, then as soon as you teleport away and end your turn, it's no longer frightened. It didn't give you anything. But at least with the prone condition, it has to waste half of its movement speed to get up. So that might be the better of the two. Plus, being prone and a melees would have advantage on attacking them. It's a very strange ability, but it does have its advantages. And there is no X amount of times you can use this. It's just as long as your innate sorcery feature is active. And innate sorcery is definitely something you're going to want to use regularly. This is combat where everything else seems a little bit more adventuring. So that's a little bit of an interesting kind of cope. Also, at level 14, you gain Steady Spellcaster. Your deep connection with your ancestor steadies you. Taking damage can't break your concentration on sorcerer spells. That is one of the most powerful defensive buffs to a caster. This doesn't matter if you're using innate sorcery or not. You just cannot break concentration from damage. I think there's one or two abilities in the game that gives you certain spells that can have your concentration broken, but this could be anything. You could have Ivar's Black Tentacles consuming the whole mass of the area, and enemies just caught in it. And there's nothing they can do to break your concentration by damaging you. So that thing will just chew up damage and hit points round after round. It will restrain round after round, and it just really gives you such a strong on-field benefit. The final ability you gain at level 18 is called Ancestor's Ward. Your Ancestor's Protection redirects harmful magic away from you. While your innate sorcery feature is active, you gain advantage on saving throws against spells. Once during your use of innate sorcery, when you fail a saving throw against a spell, you can choose to succeed instead. That is one legendary resistance per use of innate sorcery. You now have a boss monster ability. This really solidifies the other half of this, because as you go through these abilities, it seems mostly like you're just building just adventuring. But now that you see some of these combat abilities coming out, and again, they are at the later end. At level 18 is a very high level to achieve. You really don't see this very often. But understand what it means to be able to decide you succeed on a saving throw against an enemy spell. It can be something at this level like Finger of Death or psychic or power word kill or something like that. Like there's like so many things that it's just crucial for you to succeed on in order to survive. Also, there's certain charm mechanics and things like that. All those save or suck spells, those are crucial and very quickly turn the tide of battle. And now you can just choose to succeed if you don't make it with having advantage on that saving throw. Now the advantage you have the entire time, which is a lot for you to be able to succeed on. But on top of that, you can just choose to succeed when you fail. That is a big boon to you. That definitely gives you this powerful defensive ability. Now, granted, at a super high level. So what I find really interesting about this sorcerer is the fact that when you boil it down, this is one of the few sorcerers that really gives you a non-combat oriented use of abilities. And I think that's really unique because you don't really see that very often. A lot of times sorcerers are kind of, again, they're kind of combat heavy. But I mean, personally, I love the sorcerer anyway. I think it's fun, but I think most of the fun that I have with sorcerers are combat oriented. You think, look at wild magic sorcery, look at draconic sorcery, even looking at aberrant mind sorcery. Like, a lot of those really, really kind of push you to doing these insane things combatly. Even meta magics, like there's only so many you can use not involving combat, but uh, they are really unique in that most of them do have applications outside of combat, and that's kind of really your only niche outside of combat and your general face abilities. But having a high charisma or even just believing in yourself might be enough to get through being a face without charisma. So ultimately, just as far as core abilities go, this sorcerer does give you a lot for that adventuring character to be more studious, more wizardly in using your magical abilities, where you're now maybe you're someone who's a historian. Maybe you're like Indiana Jones. Maybe you're trying to crack these ancient relics. Maybe you're trying to figure out who this ancestor is, and maybe they were a great hero who traveled all over the place, and so their hands and fingers have been dug into everything, so you can see marks of them throughout your travel. It really can tie you very well into it. It does feel like a way to communicate with them would be a really cool role playing point. I think that might be really fun to explore, to dig through as you gain further knowledge and gain power. I like that you do get steady spellcaster and ancestor's ward. I think those are very, very desired abilities for a sorcerer. It is higher level though, so the chance of seeing ancestor's ward again is very, very small. But that is a really powerful ability. Alright, with all that said and done, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you ever get the opportunity to play an Ancestral Sorcerer, definitely let us know. We'd like to hear your comments. Love to hear from you guys. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Really appreciate everything you do, and you really help push the channel forward. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, it makes a huge difference to the channel. The link is in the description, as well as a link to our live stream game on Wednesday nights and our gaming channel. So, thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.